So let's talk about the marketing plan outline, okay? The idea here is really to create an outline and uh, a strategy plan so that you have on paper direction on what to do next or where to go. You know, there's an expression, if you fail to plan, plan to fail, right? So that's the idea here. We talked about a lot of concepts, a lot of theory, a lot of instructional stuff, but everything has to have a plan. You really have to have a plan to be successful because you don't know where you need to go unless you map it out, right? Think about you getting in the car and trying to get to a location. Now, you know, I've been driving a few years. We actually used to use maps. In fact, I was just sharing a story with someone I work with who's a millennial, so a little younger than I am. And now we've got Google Maps and all that stuff. It's easy. 1, 2, 3. We punch it in, and we get directions, and we got ways that keep us out of traffic and stuff. Well, the story that I was sharing was I used to travel 4 states when I lived up in the Northeast area, and I used to cover 4 states. And I used to have maps not only of the states, but I used to have maps of the local area and all, you know, the zip code zones. So I had a trunk. In my trunk, I had a crate. It was an old milk crate, a crate of maps from different areas. And when I wanted to go somewhere, I had to plan out my day because I would drive most of the time. In those years, I was driving 60, 70, 80,000 miles a year because that's how I made my living. And I would have to map out where I was going. So I would put on a piece of paper, okay, go here first, then map out this, map out that, and I have a plan for the day of how I'm going to generate my revenue, how I'm going to generate sales. Well, this is sort of the same concept. We really want to start planning out how we're going to generate our business, generate our sales for a product, a service, a company. Everyone needs to have a strategy and a marketing plan, and that's where this is the beginning of it. And you want to sort of pull all the knowledge together and put it here. So this is not a full-blown out marketing plan because a marketing plan is a little more extensive, but it is a strategy plan outline, a digital marketing plan strategy outline that will help you set the pace of where you want to go. Now, I really believe after doing marketing, sales, and business development all these years, owning a business and working with big companies, I really believe that this marketing, this strategy plan is the heart of growing your business. And you really have to start thinking about that. And if you follow any sports, and I'm a big baseball guy, but if you follow any sports, whether it be, you know, soccer, football, basketball, right? We have March Madness happening right now. There's a strategy. You have to have a strategy when you go into a game to figure out if you can win or not. And that's what this is all about. So that's the idea behind this. So you need to take your company, your product, your service, and it should be a small company. It should be a product. Maybe it's even an idea that you have, and you need to start penciling that out and writing that out in a document. So what I'll do here is I'll share some of these steps that are outlined in that document outline, and then we can just talk through that a little bit, okay? All right, let's start with the beginning. The beginning is a summary. Some of us might know this if we did a traditional business plan or a traditional marketing plan. We used to call that executive summaries. And executive summaries were generally 1 to 2 pages that would give you an outline of the whole plan, so that if the whole plan didn't exist and you just have 1 or 2 pages, everything will be in that 1 or 2 pages. In this particular case, because it's not a full-blown out marketing plan, we're just really creating a paragraph or 2 of what the whole business or what the whole product is all about. And we're doing this because we really want to set the stage for the growth of the product, set the stage for the strategy. So here, when you build a summary, when you start writing a summary, you have to include things like the company information, company history. Are you a competitor in the market to something that's out there now? Do you expect to be the only product or service in the market? What is your competitive advantage? Now remember, a competitive advantage belongs only to you. It's unique to your company, to your product. So maybe you're open 24/7. Maybe you deliver in less than 24 hours. Maybe you make a product that has all these different bells and whistles and components that other companies don't. You want to be different here. You want to explain your differentiation here, so your competitive advantage, because that's what makes you different. That's part of that USP, the unique selling proposition, or the UVP, we might hear that, the unique value proposition. That's sort of how we're explaining that. And you also want to talk about briefly, because this is not a full blown out business plan, it's just an understanding of what the market looks like. You expect to do $100,000 in sales, and even though you're a smaller player, you hope to get 3% of the market share and sell 5,000 units, and you expect to be able to grow 20% every year for the next 3 years. So you're sort of just writing that up, and I think what happens here, it's a good exercise as business leaders. As we write that up, we get to see where we can go. We start to visualize that roadmap. So you also want to, when you're writing up the summary, start to think about the outline of your digital marketing strategy and goals. Like, do I want to get 1,000 fans on TikTok, 1,000 followers on TikTok? Do I want 5,000 followers on Facebook? Do I want to sell $100,000 worth of products through social selling? So you're tying that in together here with your sales and growth, and you're really maybe explaining in a small way what your marketing plan here is. I want to use influencers to build my business because it's a demonstratable type product, and I think influencers will help me sell the product or introduce the product. I want to use advertising, pay-per-click ads, or social selling, or just viral content to really build the business here, and explain why the plan is produced. So we're making this plan obviously because we want to set the roadmap of where we need to be, and come back and check it in 6 months to see where we are. Remember, marketing is all about creating an action, executing the action, and then coming back and measuring your results to see if you did it good or not, right? If you did it well. Because if you didn't do it well, then you got to improve it, and that's okay. There's really, look, I don't believe in right or wrong. I mean, there's best practices, there's right ways of doing things and wrong ways of doing things. That's true. But in marketing, you have to create the research, you have to create the plan, you have to get the plan out there, execute it, come back and measure the results, and then refine that and do it again. That's what the online component of this all is. That's why that's all important. So some key points to think about when you're writing up your summary, and the summary is, in this case, it's 2 paragraphs maybe. I've seen some are a page long. It doesn't have to be too detailed. You're really just giving the breakdown of why the plan is, why the company's in business, what the products are that are being manufactured and sold, what markets are you serving, and why do you serve those markets? What are the features of the products? What are the benefits of the products to your customers? Remember, features are something that the product has built into it, and the benefits are what the customer, the consumers, get out of that feature. Like, for example, if you build a car with a big engine, that's a feature, and the benefit that the customer gets from it is that the car goes fast, right? Because it has a powerful big engine, the car goes fast. So what are the benefits to the customers? Because we need to promote the benefits of those features when we create our marketing, when we do our content, when we do things online. That's the whole idea there. The next section here in the plan is your description of the product or service. Now remember, product and service here are interchangeable. The truth is that there's not a lot of differences between marketing a service and a product. There are differences, some nuances, obviously, but you could create the same type of strategy for a service as a product, at least when we outline it. There'll be some specific things you might have to do. And it could also be a business in general. So you could be product, service, or business description here. So when we talk about describing this product or service description, we really want to think about the marketing mix, the 4 Ps. Remember that? That's the product, the place, the promotion, and the pricing. And we'll cover a couple of these separately in the plan. But the idea here is to explain the product. What is your main product and features? Now, you started talking about that already in the summary. Here you could maybe explain that a little more in detail. Are there major benefits? Are there major branding strategies or current branding strategies that you're using? Pricing, you could mention pricing briefly here. We have a separate section for that, which we'll cover. So it doesn't have to be that involved in this particular section. In fact, I've seen summaries where we don't talk about pricing here. We just leave it for that pricing section. That's fine as well. Distribution is the place. So how can we get the product to market? Remember, that's how the product gets to the final user. So is it a B2C? Is it B2B? Are we omni-channel? Do we sell online, and can they pick it up in store? Do we sell only to wholesalers and distributors? How does your product or service get to market? Now, if you're a service business, if you're a salon, let's say, and you cut hair, how do you cut hair? Do people walk into your salon? Well, I mean, nowadays it's tough to say that, but do you go to people's houses to cut their hair, right? Is that how you're getting the product, the service to your end user? How do they book an appointment? Do they book an appointment through an app and then you go to their home? Or if a salon does exist, do you take an appointment online and then they go to the salon to get their haircut, things of that nature? So a service business does have a distribution also. If it's a restaurant, it's a dine-in, you got to go in and eat inside the restaurant to eat, or you could carry out, right? That's a point of distribution too. Then we also talk about promotional strategies, and here again, you're really covering what the plan is, the overall plan is for advertising, sales, and promotion. Now, let's keep in mind that both pricing and promotion will have a separate section in your outline, because those are 2 important parts of this plan. So you could, in this particular section, when you talk about the product and service description, focus really on the product. This is all about the product. I cover price, distribution, and promotion because you can't have a strong product without having the additional components of the marketing mix. So you might need to cover some of that here, meaning pricing and promotion. When we try to describe the product, some things to keep in mind might be, what's the definition of your product? Why does it exist? How does the product get to the final user? That's the distribution part. Why does your product or service exist? What makes you different? We talked about that unique selling proposition. Why is the company in business, and what particular products are being manufactured here? What markets are served, and why? That's all part of the product, service, and description. That could be put into this section as well. One thing to consider too when we're writing up on product and service, and I gave some additional points here, is remember that we talked about features and benefits. We talked about branding strategies. We talked a little bit about pricing levels, and we'll cover that in a separate section. But just as a reminder here, when we talk about pricing, we are looking at your total cost, which in this case would be or your COGS, which are cost of goods sold, COGS, and then maybe you're including your fixed and your variable cost. So let's call this Z in this particular case. So total cost would be your Y plus Z, which would be your COGS, plus your fixed cost and variable cost. That's your total cost. So to get to a price, you sort of need to know that, right? And then add on your margin. So in this case, if your total costs are $50 and you wanted to work on the 50% margin, you would need to sell it for $100. So you need to just make sure the math works out and that you're profitable, because we're going to start using some of these numbers to lay out our budget. And that's where the pricing becomes important. Okay. So the next section would be an explanation of your target market. So let's talk about the target market. You really cannot sell a product or a service unless you know who's going to buy your product or service. You have to have a target market. Okay. You've done the research. You can't just come up and say, okay, my target is all people who buy product X or something like that. I guess you could say that, but you really need to define your target. You really need to do the research. And this is where a lot of companies don't plan well enough. Just because you make a great product doesn't mean that the entire world is going to buy it. So you need to set your target up. Okay, imagine, and I always share this example of if you try to throw, if you take a tennis ball and you throw it up against the wall, you will hit the wall, right? If you're close enough and you just hit the wall, you'll hit something. But you don't know if what you're hitting is making an impact or not, because you don't have a target up there. Now, if you draw, you take that same wall, you take a piece of chalk and you draw a circle on that wall, and now you take that same tennis ball and you throw it up against the wall, and it hits the center of the circle in that target that you threw. Now you know that you're hitting the target on the wall. So visually speaking, you know you've accomplished something and you've hit your target. This is the same concept here when we talk about target marketing. You may get lucky if you don't plan this out. You may get market share. You may hit some targets occasionally, because if you throw enough tennis balls against the wall, you're gonna keep hitting the wall. You're gonna hit something of value, right? But luck is only going to take you so far. You need to have some type of strategy. So you really need to define your target market, explain who and why and how your product is being used and why it's being bought. Provide what the market size could be. Is the market size 1 million people? Is the market size 5 million people? Is the market size 7.2 billion people, the global population on planet Earth? What is it, and what's the largest possible market that you can go after? And then we talk about product positioning in the marketplace. So product positioning is a concept that we need to understand too when we're trying to price a product and promote a product and brand a product. So what is product positioning? Well, product positioning is how we, as the marketer, put the product in the consumer's mind. So if we have a high quality, high price product, we tell the consumer, hey, this product is high quality and it's high price. So you know that when you go online and you look for a product, it's positioned high price, high quality. You know you're going to spend a little more money for it, but you're going to get a better quality. Okay. Or I can do the opposite of that. I can say this is a low price, low quality product. Well, that's okay too, because consumers appreciate that positioning as well. When you go online, you know you're looking for something cheap and inexpensive and gets the job done. Well, here it is. We got that product for you. So positioning is how you position your product or service in the mind of the consumer. It's not a physical place, but it's a place in the consumer's mind, in their head. For example, if I say to you Mercedes-Benz, you recognize what Mercedes-Benz is. You know it to be a luxury car, right? So you have an idea of what a Mercedes-Benz is. You know that's going to cost you some money. You know it's luxury, and that's what you expect. If I say to you Hyundai, okay, you know that that vehicle is a economic car, right? A value car. So even though they make a good product, it's a lower priced car. So you get an idea of what that is. Designer wares and things of that nature. So positioning is how you deliver what you say to the consumer in the consumer's mind. Now, it's important that you keep that, what we call the brand promise. So if I tell you, hey, this is a high quality, expensive product, when the consumer gets it, it better be a high quality, expensive product. Otherwise, guess what's going to happen? They're going to light you up, right, with bad reviews, and there goes your business. So that's important. So positioning is important here when you try to lay out your target market. So understand that, understand the positioning, understand why the target consumer would buy your product. We talked about the needs and the benefits already. Here is where also you want to lay out your personas. So if you segmented your market down a little bit, which you should, then you want to create 2 to 3 to even 4 types of profiles and personas here that will be able to, you'll be able to create messaging for that marketplace. And here we're looking at the persona makeup. So we're looking at the demographics, the psychographics, right? The likes, the dislikes, pain points, all the things that we've talked about here: gender, income, age, education, attitudes, purchasing characteristics, even their social media usage, because you can't really create a persona unless you know what social media they're on, because that's going to help you deliver your content to them, right? That's all part of that segmentation and target market creation. Okay. Just remember, you cannot hit a target if you don't have a target. You can get lucky, but luck is not going to build your business. Let's talk about the next section. So I would like to wake up in the morning thinking that I'm the only one on planet Earth that has this idea, that has this product, that has this service. But we know that's not possible. We know that's not the reality. Everything that we do, to everything we have, there's competitors and there's substitutes. So your product might be the best in the world. Your product might be the cheapest in the world. Your product might be the newest in the world, or your service, whatever it is that you have, your talent. But there are competitors and substitutes out there. That's just the way the world is. And now remember, it's a global economy. When I say global economy, I mean a global economy. The one thing that the internet has changed the way we do business is that you as a consumer now can buy a product from anywhere in the world and get it within 7 to 10 days, right? You can buy directly from the source of the producer in China, let's say, if you wanted to, in India, wherever the product is made. So we have competitors and substitutes everywhere. Now, when we put together our strategy, we put together our plan, we have to assume that there's competitors and substitutes. And when I say competitors and substitutes, I use substitutes also because what we want to understand too is the exchange of the dollar, let's say. We talk about marketing and really commerce is the exchange, right? I give you something of value, you give me something of value. That's the exchange. Adam Smith wrote the book The Wealth of Nations, and it talked about this exchange, and we get this value. So there are substitutes to that exchange. I'll give you an example that I always use. If you had $1, you could go into a store, a convenience store, and if you could buy a Coke for $1. We know that to compete with Coke, there is Pepsi. You could buy a Coke, assuming they're both $1, assuming everything is $1 here in this example. So you could buy a Coke or a Pepsi for $1, okay? Easy competitor. Now, you could also buy bottled water for $1. Again, another competitor, right? I mean, that's why both Coke and Pepsi are selling water now. But you could also buy orange juice. So orange juice now is $1. So now I can buy Pepsi, Coke, water, or orange juice. Or I can buy a cup of coffee for $1, right? So now I can buy either one of them for $1. But let's say I only have $1 to spend and I want to spend $1 to get something. I see a pack of M&Ms. Now, I could substitute, if I decide I'm not thirsty, I could substitute that purchase for M&Ms. So now I just spent that $1 somewhere else, okay? Or maybe it's not M&Ms, maybe it's a bag of Doritos. I love Doritos, right? So that's a substitute there. So someone could spend their money in other ways. They don't necessarily have to buy a competitor. They can just substitute out. So we need to know that. We need to know exactly what that looks like. So our idea is we have to look at ourselves first internally. You have to know who you are as a business, as a product, as a service first. So we look at SWOT analysis, which is the strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. And we identify 2 or 3 bullet points, let's say, of our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So a strength and a weakness is internal. That's something that applies just to you or to your company. An opportunity and a threat is more external. That's what we call that macro environment, right? If COVID, as an example right now, is a threat, right, for most companies. It could also be an opportunity for some companies, couldn't it? So that's external. We don't have control over that. It's not part of our business model. It's not part of who we are. We had no idea. It's part of that macro environment. The macro environment is legal, political, economic, social, technological changes that happen out there. So those are all opportunities and threats. So we need to do that for ourselves, our product or a service. Then we need to take a look at the competition. So it's important to understand the competition, and I always like to benchmark against 3 competitors. One might be a direct competitor, the second might be the largest, the third might be the smallest, or you decide on who that is, and you do the same exercise, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for your competitors and substitutes. So why is this important? It's important because we need to know what's happening out there in terms of our competition. Okay, so we need to know that. That's really important. Okay, so what I would do here is I would find a company that is a direct competitor, and maybe find one larger or maybe find one smaller, and then put 2 or 3 points here on strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and that helps you outline your SWOT analysis. So let's now talk about price. Price is one of the most important parts of the marketing mix, right? Because if your price is not right, it could throw everything off. If your price is too high, you won't sell enough product. If your price is too low, you'll sell a lot of product, but you won't make any money, and it'll be upside down. So price has to be reviewed carefully. Now, there are 3 C's when we talk about price. Keep this in mind when we're outlining our pricing. 3 C's. The first C of price is cost. You need to know what your cost is of everything we do. So in this case, we're going to have an example of looking at our cost of goods sold, which is COGS, cost of goods sold, that's COGS, plus our total fixed and variable costs, right? So we sort of combine them together in one big bucket. Now, accountants and finance guys would hate me for this, but this is just a marketing exercise. It's not a financial or accounting exercise. We just need to know what everything all in is going to cost us, right? This way we can get to understanding what our price will be. Because generally speaking, once we know our cost, we could add a margin on top of that to get to a price. And that's how most product and services are priced out. We put some type of margin on it and we get to a price. So in this case, your total cost, they're all in, could be $50. We want to add a 50% margin on it. So we sell for $100. And that's sort of how we would come up with that math. Now, when we do price, we have to understand all the variables around that. So when you think about those 3 C's, the first one is cost. The second one is competition. Now, we just spent a few minutes talking about competition. You cannot ignore competition because it doesn't matter what you say the price is. If you have competition out there and the competitor puts out the same exact product at a better price, then unless you do incredible marketing, you're not going to hurdle them. You're not going to be able to beat them in the game of sales. So you have to see what the competitive price is out there in the market. So the first C was cost. The second C was competition. The third C, which is the most important, is the customer. Okay, now we spent time talking about the customer and the target market and the profiles and the personas. If the customer says, Professor Ken, that product that you're trying to sell for $100 is not worth $100, if I don't have that value there, if I don't have that brand promise to that customer and they believe that that price is out of whack, they will not buy it. So that's important to understand. So you see, everything is sort of connected here when we do these things. So the 3 C's in price are cost, competition, and customer. You need to consider all 3 of them to really get to a good market price. Then when you do that, you need to also include things like your promotional activities. What are the promotional activities? If you're coming in with price. Now, there's specific pricing strategies that you should know as well. My suggestion always is to price a little higher and then promote down than to price low and try to raise the price. You can raise the price, but it becomes more difficult to raise the price. So you want to look at that, maybe special payment terms or pricing options at various products. You can also bucket that in the promotional section. You know, when you talk about free shipping on a website, that has to be factored in somewhere, or 10% off your purchase, that has to be factored in somewhere because that affects your margins as well. So when we talk about price, we have to look at those particular sections, okay? So how do you justify promotion? It's a great question, and there's a few ways, but basically we have to look at customer lifetime value. So let's say the product that we sell is $1, right? Let's use simple math here. The product we sell is $1. And it cost us, the acquisition cost for a customer is 10 cents, let's say, okay? So the product costs us to make 50 cents. So if we look at COGS and fixed costs and variable costs, let's use this exact example here. But instead of $100, it's all $1. So 50 cents, we make 50 cents on margin, but it costs us 10 cents to get it. That means we only put 40 cents in our pocket. So if we do a promotion and we give them another 10 cents, that means we put less in our pocket. We put 30 cents in our pocket. Okay, so that one deal, sale number 1, we only make 30 cents on the customer because we had to get them and we had to give them a discount, right? Okay, sale number 2, we'll make 50 cents. We'll go back to making 50 cents on the customer. Sale number 3, 4, and 5, if they don't buy on promo, we'll make 50 cents on the customer. We've gotten to this point. We built out our summary. We examined our competition, we understand our target market, developed our personas, we understand where they're on, if they're on social media, Facebook, TikTok, all these other places. We looked at our 4Ps, we looked at our price, our distribution, we looked at our promotional plan, we looked at all that. We have all that covered. Now, let's get the word out, right? Now it's time to start advertising and promoting everything. So we should have a plan for that too. Let's summarize what we plan to do for each particular direction we decide, because maybe there's not one direction. Maybe we want to promote the product on, I just mentioned a BOGO, right? Not everyone does that, but let's say we wanted to do a BOGO, a buy one, get one. Maybe that's promo one. And then perhaps we want to do a 50% off. Maybe that's promo two. The next one could be free shipping, right? Promo three. Well, let's decide what we're doing, explain these promotions, and maybe we want to break it down by quarter. So we plan out a calendar, what it looks like. Now, this is all changeable based on what's happening in the marketplace. So we want to summarize what we're trying to do. Now, you can summarize this by specific product or services or dollars and cents, and you could do all that in each quarter. That's not a problem at all. So the idea here is just map out your journey, map out your promotional plan. So here's promo number one. For January through March, I will do this. For April through June, I'm going to do this. For July through September, I am doing this. For October through December, I'm doing this. So you're setting quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're sort of outlining stuff. And this is top line ideas. It's not tactical in nature, but you want to have a sense of where you're going. And this is a very simple layout. Normally, when you dig in, you're itemizing this a lot better, but you want to just plan things out, right? Obviously, if we look at these quarters, we know Q4 is the holiday season. We know that we sell a lot of product during that quarter. That's why there's something called Cyber Monday and the Cyber 5 and Black Friday and all that stuff, right? Because that happens all through the holidays. Although sales have been incredible throughout the COVID. And then, of course, if you're on Amazon, you know, in July, normally they have their Prime Day. And now Target's doing it and Walmart's doing it. So there's a big sale period here in July as well if you're selling a product or service. So you have to sort of plan that out. And you could do that in dollars and cents. And you can set this grid the way you need to, so it makes sense to you. That's really what's important here. Then you also want to take that same idea, that same concept, and now let's put the messaging out there. What type of messaging? If we decide we want to do a promotion for Q2 and it's celebrate the summer, right? Q2 officially starts in just a couple of weeks here. It begins in April. Let's do a promotion, celebrate the summer. Finally, we could be outside again, right? That type of thing. Because COVID is, hopefully we're all vaccinated and we're moving on with our lives. So maybe you want to create a big campaign around that. Finally get to have a beer on the beach with your friends, or take a picnic with your family, or just walk the park or whatever it is, and you want to celebrate being outside again or being with family again or whatever it is. So you're creating messaging for that particular promotion. Now, you're creating messaging for different channels, because let's say you're on TikTok, that messaging is video driven, let's say. So your message, and maybe it leans younger if that's within your target audience, of course. So your messaging has to pivot and be in line to what that is. Or let's say you're on Facebook. Facebook, you could also do videos, or you could do images and things of that nature. And so you have to pick the channel, because the messaging, even though it should be the same, it changes, the format changes a little bit in different channels. So the messaging may change a little bit in the channel, right? So you have to understand that breakdown. So as you outline what your messages are, and again, this is tying into your promo plan that you outlined earlier, you're picking the channels now and you're sort of defining that message in this section as well. So now you're drawing the picture and it's getting clearer to you of what you want to do. The next step of that process is now to really break it down and put some metrics behind it. And the metrics could vary. I'm using the cost per thousands. If we're doing advertising or we're spending money on it, you can use CTR, click-through rates, whatever the metrics are. You can use 2 metrics, 3 metrics. You need to start tying in some metrics here. What do you want each particular promotion to drive? So promo 1 in quarter 1, you want to generate $1,000 in revenue, and your estimated CPM will be $50, let's say. So you start putting some numbers and metrics and KPIs, key performance indicators, to this promo plan. Now, this is an outline, not a very strategic plan, not very focused. There are better ways of doing this, but this is just to give you an idea of what your spend rate will be and some of your goals that you're trying to get. So a simplified concept of that. The other thing you want to do too is create these goals and tie the goals in. So now you're picking that channel and you're saying, I want to generate X impressions or X clicks, and you're defining what those KPIs, and you're outlining goals in each channel each quarter. Now, I'm laying this out on a quarterly basis. You really want to do something on a weekly basis. If you're executing a plan, it should be top line quarterly and then break it down by week. And I like to use weeks. Days are hard to measure, but I like to use week because that makes more sense for me. Okay. So there is always going to be research. Okay. So you always have to look at the existing environment, the competitive environment. So you have to look at trends. You have to look at markets. You have to look at demographics. You have to do some research, regardless of what the product is. Let's say it's a pizzeria in Miami Gardens. Okay, well, there's hundreds of pizzerias in Miami, maybe thousands. I don't know what the number is. So what do they do that's different? They make a specialty pizza that includes, I don't know, kiwi or pineapple or something. It's something unique. Okay, great. That's their unique differentiating factor. That's what we're going to promote. That's what's different than everybody else. We're going to use that to promote it. Now let's take a look at the world and let's see what the competition is doing. First, does anyone else have that particular product or service in a 30-mile radius? You have to do the research. No. Okay, great. So you're going to be by yourself in 30 miles. How far? Then now you know that at least they're unique and different in that market. You have to look at, well, how many people like kiwi on a pizza? You know, can you find that information? Well, have they sold it before? Have they surveyed their customers? So you have to look at all the information. There's not one static answer. You just have to look at all the possible information you can gather and start making some assumptions. Then once you get the assumptions made, you validate that with the business owner. You say, okay, here's what I learned. You're the only one that does kiwi pizza in South Florida. That's great. Now, do your customers like it? Oh, yeah, they love it. Do you have any Google reviews about it? Oh, yeah, I have 2 reviews. Okay, do you have any complaints? Oh, yeah, I have 17 complaints. Okay, well, wait a second. You got 17 complaints and 2 reviews. So do more people don't like it or do like it? Oh, no, more people like it. I said, well, you know, how do you know that? So you have to really dig in a little bit and get that information. So you have to always do independent research, look at the macro environment, look at the competitive environment. That's why all these steps I'm outlining are part of the process. All right, lastly, let's cover this last section. Everything we do is done because we want to generate dollars. We want to create revenue. That's how we know if our marketing is good or not. You took Professor Ken's class, great, congratulations. But now you've done something and you're not generating any revenue. That doesn't mean anything, really, right? The only way you know if marketing is working or not, if you get the cash register ringing, if you get conversions, if you see orders coming in online, that's the only way you know what you're doing is working. Sales, right? There's an old expression that sales solves all problems. Mark Cuban often says, yeah, you know what, just get sales and you don't have to worry about anything. And that's true. If your company is selling something and you're successful selling something, everything else sort of works itself out. You have to figure it out, of course, but you need sales in order to get to the next level. So that's what we're doing all this for. So that means we have to budget, we have to estimate what type of sales we can generate and what does that look like in terms of spend and marketing. So again, this is not a financial plan. It's not a any type of financial statements, or finance guys and accounting guys would cringe if they're seeing this type of exercise. But basically, you need to know this as a marketer, and if you're doing something, because you want to make money. I had a great example. I had someone who hired me to work with them, and they were spending money on advertising, and they were happy. They were excited. They were getting sales. They did a crazy promotion, and they got the sales through promotion. So when I did the analysis and I showed them the numbers, they were actually losing like $1.75 on every one item they were selling, and they sold 1,000 of them. So he lost $2,000 on that sale. Now, that was sale one. So I explained to them, if you get them to come back and buy 3 more times, you'll make the money back. So that's the goal we put into place. Let's make money 3 or 4 more times. And that's the plan. So there is an opportunity to make money on a losing sale, but you have to understand that and you have to map that out. So in this case here, we have year 1, year 2, year 3. It's a very general forecast of what sales are. So what is your total revenue in year 1? Really, to get to that, it's a simple equation. You're taking how many units you will sell times your price. So if your units are $100, you sell 5 of them, your revenue in year 1 is $500. Then if you remember, we use COGS, right? That was that Y equation we had back then. That's your cost of goods sold. Generally speaking, as a percentage, that's 50%, plus or minus. So you put $50 there because that's your cost of goods sold. And then you're looking at your SG&A, which is your total cost, which in this case could be 10%. So let's call that $10. And then what is your marketing spend? That's sort of the outline that we did, the 4X type number. And let's say you spend $20 on marketing. So if you fill in the blanks here and you do this, and I'll share my screen with you. So let's say you're $100 here, and your COGS were $50. Let's put that here. And your SG&A was $10, and your marketing spend was $20. Let's go ahead and just center all that. So 100. Oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and just rebold this here a second. So 100 is your revenue, right? Minus 50, minus 10, minus 20, because that's a minus as well. So 50, 10, 20, that's 60, 80. That means your gross profit here would be $20. And that's really how you run out your forecast and your budget. You can estimate that. And here's another one, an example here. You can use that. Let's say you get a 50% increase of revenue in year 2. So that case, that would be 150. These numbers will stay the same at 50%. That means that's 75. That means that's 20, or 15 rather. And that means that that's 30. So now if you do the math, that's 130, and that's $20 gross profit again. So you see the numbers, you're selling more, your COGS are going up, your SG&A is going up. Well, actually, this would be 15. I made a mathematical error there here. So that's, let's see, that's 105, 130. So 130 is $20. Yeah, so that's about right. So you have to roll that out over the next year 1, year 2, and year 3. It's always good to have a budget for at least 3 years. And that's really the last part of the exercise. And once you do that, you have a good idea of what you're trying to do in terms of a plan. Okay.